all lizards.
Indeed, lizards. So as you begin to wake up, you see that, three of your companions are there. What kind of conversation do you have with them, or start with them?
Good morning, everyone.
Aye, you're finally awake there.
That was a rough night for me.
Creed,
We got any?
What happened to your hands?
Oh, just.
Let me see.
With an iron grip, she grabs your hands and pulls them to her.
Oh no,
Nice
this bandage,
scaly
this will
fingers.
not do. This will not do.
They're fine. When she unwraps them, they're all healed up. There's no scabs or anything. Just scales back in place.
Yeah, it looks like fresh skin, basically.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine, Aelin. Thank you for your worry, though. I would appreciate some hearty breakfast, though. I'm a bit starved this morning.
As if on cue, Albert walks over, and there's a big, probably like a pheasant or something, that is plopped down in front of you.
Oh, you sir are a great man. And Kree reaches down and just digs his hand like to the inside of the leg and just pulls out the whole leg meat and just eats it with the bone.
Yeah. I think there's a moment where Mel probably like scooches a little bit to the left to get away from you a little bit, because you're like spraying food in directions.
I am not. I'm just an aggressive eater, not a messy one.
And Albert just and walks back.
Fingers, they're better than knives.
Hey, so
Do you
did you
say
get
that?
into?
When everyone's looking at me weirdly for using my hand, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Mel probably says, debatable. As she continues to play with her weird knife.
As it is.
Nice. So
Just a crunch of the bone.
did you get into a scuffle last night or something?
Yeah. A couple houses were in my way. But it's fine. I'm a lot happier this morning. That's for sure.
Just kind of that. You what face?
Just the eyes squinted, mouth slightly agape. What?
It was a productive night. But yeah, this food, I'm gonna get in it. I'm sorry, I am so hungry right now. And he literally just starts devouring this if no one's going to take any other bite.
No, it's just for you.
Oh yeah, this thing's gone.
Yeah.
Slightly disgusted by this because, of course, Aylin's a vegetarian. She stands up and kind of like, adjusts her robe and just says, I need to go say a few goodbyes if you all wouldn't mind.
Of course, Aiden. Take your time. I don't think we're leaving within the next few hours.
Thank you, Farron. If anyone needs me, I'll be in the town.
Yep, totally. And you begin to head out. And Mel, sitting there, kind of like pauses for a moment and like watches Aelin leave. And she probably looks to Farron and says, "It's been fantastic, love, but it's time for me to get about my job if we're going to be staying here a little bit longer. It seems that I may have some business elsewhere. I'll be back, though, before we leave."
Indeed. Then bid you farewell for now.
Yeah, and she kind of, slides, kind of sidles out of the booth. And she says, as she's walking by, she's, she pauses and she says, "Ah, yes, and Farron."
Yes, Mel?
I assume you gaze and look up at her. She flicks you on the nose, and she says, "Take a bath," and continues leaving.
As I just continue to chuckle.
Cool. So let's jump over to Morella. Well, actually, I should say Hannibal first. You're coming down as this scene is kind of unfolding. Maybe a little bit bleary-eyed from being awake for most of the night, if not all of it. And you see Aelin and Mel kind of departing. What do you do? Okay. He walks over the table and sits down and goes, "Who's that chick?"
Hi, she is Mel. She will be travelling with us as we leave town.
She's like, okay, yeah, that's good. Hey, by the way, I'm just here to get breakfast, and opens up his book and begins flipping through pages as breakfast and water or whatever he's drinking is delivered to him, and seemingly begins to ignore you.
So yeah, I think with no longer having to entertain, Farron would then go get a bath before meeting someone before we travel.
Indeed. Cool. Yes, he does. And I assume Jackson, Hannibal might prestidigitation you if you request it. Doesn't quite get that same feel, but it totally works. He probably charges you 5 copper for the bath.
Yeah, I'm not giving him any money.
Yeah, totally. So let's jump over to Morella.
Yes.
Morella, as you departed early in the morning before everybody else kind of started to do their thing, and you went and made contact with the paladins.
Mm-hmm.
And when you arrive kind of at the Church of Sigmar, it's still kind of a little bit fucked, because of the previous like battles and stuff, and yep, same thing. Because of the previous battles and stuff, and they're still wounded, probably in like the streets, but mostly they're being tended to, and everything is kind of returning to normal-ish. And you roll up on the Church of Sigmar, and where do you go? Who do you try and talk to?
I look for the first hand.
Okay. So as you walk in, you're greeted by a variety of priests and priestesses and paladins of varying ranks who all greet you admirably and with respect, saying, my Lady Morella, Lady Fairheart, etc., etc. More than probably previous, because they all know, they can all put a name to the face now, having been in attendance, obviously, for the ceremony. And as you kind of proceed, maybe you grab one of them and say, hey, is the first hand available? And the boy that you grabbed, he probably nods and says, yes, my lady, I will fetch him, and begins to like take off towards the back of the room. A few moments later, the first hand does not emerge, but somebody who you know at least to be kind of not in cahoots, that would be the wrong term, but it's the second hand, and her name is Hannah. We'll just say Smith. Hannah Smith. And secondhand Smith, she walks up to you, and she's somewhat of a stern, kind of motherly figure within the church.
Yeah.
She where the first hand is, very like kind of professional and devout, she's probably a bit more militant. She's got graying hair that's kind of pulled tightly in a ponytail behind her. She's bedecked. Actually, she's wearing her chainmail still, and has her warhammer at her side, but doesn't have a shield or anything like that. And she kind of approaches you, and she holds out her hand to shake yours, which I assume that you do, kind of, gratuitously. She grabs your forearm, you grab her forearm, you do the shake. And she says, Lady Fairheart, I apologize. Reginald is unfortunately indisposed at the moment. What can we do for you?
Oh, if it is indisposed, then I suppose I will have to relay this message to you then, second hand.
That would be amicable, yes.
And she starts, fiddling with her side. And then, undoes the leather straps to her longsword and just presents it to the second hand. Give this to the first hand. Tell it is a gift. I have no need of this.
Yeah, she kind of raises an eyebrow and looks at you, and she says, "Are you certain?"
She smiles and she just gestures towards the spear on her back, and she says, "I am in need of only one weapon."
I think she smiles and
this
nods,
is
and
in
she
good
says,
faith for what the first hand has done for us.
Yeah, she kind of smiles and she says, "That in our faith. Isn't that correct, Lady Fairheart?"
She nods.
Yeah, and she says, "This is a great gift. I will be sure that the first hand honors it with such respect." And she kind of gives you a very kind of low nod, and lifts the sword gently off of your hands.
Yeah, and she just simply says, "He does not need to use it. Just simply needs to have it."
Yeah, and I think she smiles, kind of knowingly, and she says, "I doubt very much that he would. He is a prideful man, but I think that this will hold a special place in the hearts of all of us here, for which we all give our thanks to you."
Thanks is not needed.
Yeah, and she kind of she nods and she says, "For one as devout as yourself, I can understand why you would say that, but perhaps someday when someone saves your city, Telebheim isn't, perhaps you will understand what we feel now towards you."
She smirks and she says, "I've had a few individuals saved my city before."
Yeah, and there's that, we get the flashback of the individuals that assisted you with the fire giant.
Fire giant.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, totally. Jericho Tannhauser and Milo Trickfoot
Raka.
and Raka becoming a giant and wrestling with the other giants, and yeah, all those great memories flood back.
The Oyak.
The Oyak, yeah, getting his shit kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
The ever levitating fucking Zetch
with the dagger throat.
Yeah.
Throw dagger, pick it up. Throw dagger.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Good times. Good times were had during that particular encounter.
It was before your time.
It was, yeah. It was good though. It was a good one. Certainly a good one.
Yeah.
So.
And.
Yeah, that's maybe that brings you, a smile to your face as you get those flashbacks.
Yeah. Here's a quick question. I don't think I've ever stated that Marilla has a cape. Would it be possible just to say she has one?
Yeah, totally. Totally, you could be
Okay.
wearing a
It
cloak.
would obviously be a cape of.
I
a
assume.
cloak of
I assume that all of
vampire.
you have cloaks or something because that's what you use to protect yourself from the weather in this
Yep.
setting, right?
It's a blanket
Yeah,
that you wear.
but that's totally a thing too. Like, you might actually just have a blanket that you pull out of your pack and like drape over your head when it's raining. Like, that's just full Hobbit mode.
I
Mhm.
wouldn't want to go
Yeah,
anywhere
I was
without
thinking
my
of more
towel.
of like a traditional like cloak.
Yeah, totally. You can absolutely have one.
Okay. Then yeah, just for mental image. Then I suppose she just starts turning around and smile. Like, does the slightest feint of a smile being formed at the like right corner of her mouth before it quickly fades away
Hmm.
as she begins heading out, and she says, "Oh, the new recruits. They might need more testing."
Yeah, totally. And the second hand just kind of smiles and nods, and she says, "I'll prepare them."
Yeah, and the whole shebang of
Yeah, but there is something else that happens too.
sure.
So you're out in the field, sparring or whatever, and you're whipping the younglings to and fro and about. And you finish like beating one of them, and maybe you're probably perhaps not panting, but you do the out breath, and you can see that the younglings kind of in front of you, they all snap like to attention and give like a salute, which is the fist over their heart and the low bow. And you hear two like kind of mailed gauntlets just clapping from behind you. And you turn around and you see, bedecked in finery, with a new symbol upon her collar, formerly Sergeant Dashhound, who has been commissioned. She is now Lieutenant Dashhound, in light of her heroics. You can see she's wearing like the officer rank, and she's just like clapping, and she's like, well done, Lady Fairheart. It is good to see you." And she comes up and embraces you. I assume that you returned the embrace.
Yeah. Yeah, she returns it.
Yeah, she embraces you and she says, "It is good that our younglings will train with someone so astute at their task." And then she probably like gives you an elbow, and gives you like a wink and probably says, "Although there were quite a few fishmen that I could have used some help with at some point."
Yeah, she Morella just simply like looks at her like, I guess again it's the like small smirk before it fades away, and she just simply says, "Well, I knew you could handle it. I mean, if you couldn't handle those, then how could you handle the big one?"
Ah, this is true. You see, younglings, even the Lady Fairheart tests those of us with rank upon our chests. Understand this. When you grow up, you should esteem to be like this woman someday. As she lauds you. And then she says, she kind of like turns and she says, "Although I see not what it may benefit the Lady Fairheart to be sparring with one so untrained. Perhaps a test is what you desire." And you can see she kind of like unbuckles her cloak and tosses it like across like one of the benches. And you can see she's got like her shield on her back, and her warhammer at her side, and she gives you like a big like kind of toothy smile.
Oh, I think Morella at like this point like actually had like both corners of her mouth actually smile longer than just briefly, and she says, "Yes, I think so."
Okay. So you see that she gives you the traditional kind of Sigmar salute, hand over fist over her heart, and she gives you a low bow, and she says, "Very well then. I must say that wood in my hands never felt quite as right as this." And you see her, she like pulls her shield off and begins like strapping it to her arm, and kind of like loosens her warhammer in her sheath, and slides it out, and She kind of twirls it once and twirls it twice, and she's like, to touch, then.
Sure.
Okay, cool. And so she kind of rings her hammer on the front of her shield, and I assume you're using your spear and shield.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's how we're gonna play this. I don't think like straight up combat rolls are appropriate in this moment. We're gonna do it. I'm going to test something out with you, which is the real reason why I'm doing this. I want to create perhaps something akin to a dueling system in 5th edition, because I think that two characters like one-on-one woman-EO shouldn't just roll to hit, take damage off.
Worst Latin I've ever.
That was Latin?
It was fake Latin, is what it was.
It's called Pig Latin.
Yeah.
Let's get this right.
It's called my own language that I just made up.
Don't insult Pig Latin like that.
Yeah, don't insult Pig Latin like that. That's the true point. Kind of similar, Hannibal, but not quite. I believe it makes a lot more sense for a series of contested rolls with, similar to how like other things work, where you need a measurement of success, like succeeding, 2 or above the other person in a series, like best of series, seems far more appropriate than just roll, hit, take hit points off, roll, hit, take hit points off, roll, hit, take hit points off. That seems super boring to me. So here's what's gonna happen, Marilla.
Sure.
Both individuals, you and Lieutenant Dashhound, are going to there's no initiative. You're going to act simultaneously. And narratively, I want you to describe how you would attempt to break her guard, and defend your own guard, right? You can choose to perhaps gain some bonuses in breaking a guard if you choose not to defend. Although she can also decide the same, or you can choose to fully defend and perhaps gain some bonuses against that in order to defend appropriately. So, in this moment, in the beginning, how would you like to approach the first round of this duel with Lieutenant Dashhound? Jeez, that's actually, I need to change it in my notes immediately, because I read off my notes when I say her name, and it says Sergeant, so Lieutenant. There we go. I will never get it wrong now.
Morella actually does not engage. She simply just stands there.
Okay.
And waits for Dashhound to make her move. It's almost like she doesn't really do anything. She's apparently just waiting on complete reflex.
Okay. So you're going to essentially defend this round, right? And do so using your reflex, so like your dexterity?
Yeah. Okay,
cool. So she is a paladin of Sigmar, and paladins of Sigmar rarely defend. They are an offensive branch of the paladins, if we were to say any are. So she is going to attempt first to poke at your defenses. She's not going to make a blow to try to batter down your defenses. So what I want to happen here is I want you to roll me a dexterity saving throw, and I'm going to roll a wisdom saving throw, and it's going to be contested.
All right.
And her wisdom saving throw is going to see if she can identify a weakness in your defense, and your dexterity is going to be to hide said weakness in your defense, right?
Okay. So here is a question, though. Mm-hmm. Because I am a shield master, and one of the benefits of it, could I add the shield AC to the save?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is where your benefits for having skills and stuff will come into play. Like, for example, if you wanted to attack using Shield Bash as your attack action for the round, totally possible.
Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, then
she's not very attentive currently.
So all I have to do
is beat a 4.
It's not is not roll a 1.
Don't roll a 1. Oh my god, did you roll it? Oh, whew. Holy shit, that was close. So you being the defensive, she charges in, shield up, and hammer low to the ground. And instead of like swinging the hammer in a full arc, she stabs with it to like hit you with the front side of it, where like the spike would be. And you're able to evade quite deftly away from it, and keep your footing and kind of take a few steps back and keep your distance a bit, because being a shield wielder, you need to keep your distance a little bit from somebody with a warhammer, because they get up close to you, you're going to be in trouble.
As well as using a spear, the idea of using a spear is to have distance, I suppose.
Yep, exactly.
Being 2 inches away and shanking someone.
Yeah, so she gains no information and no inherent bonuses to her next roll to attack, because she did not beat you, and you were able to evade and defend your guard, no problem. Okay. So what would you like to do in the second round? You guys are circling each other, and she probably smiles and she says, "Ah, yes, you are quick without that bulky armor."
Yeah, and she smirks as immediately Marla goes in, and she's attempting to like knock Dashhound's like arms up, essentially like to like pull her shield away.
Okay.
Essentially.
So you're going to be using perhaps your strength to
yeah
muscle her out of
batter.
The way. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Muscle it.
So then I think in this instance she's going to use her her Constitution to stay on her feet, perhaps, and be able to not evade, but to soak the blow that you're going to deal with your shield to kind of break her guard.
Yeah.
So I will roll Constitution saving throw. You roll a Strength saving throw.
Okay.
Not great.
All right. Again, I need to not roll a 1.
Not great. You got this, I believe. No problem. Yeah. So you very deftly kind of like batter her shield away. She brings her shield up to bear and kind of sets her weight into it. But perhaps maybe you tilt the shield up with your spear. It kind of like lightly taps her in the chin. It throws off her balance, and you're able to, with your shield, batter her shield away. Because you succeeded on a attack, right? You can have advantage on your next attack against her. So how would you like to go about attempting to win? Because it is to touch, right? So in this round, how would you like to go about attempting to win?
It's actually for good measure. She simply flips the spear to the blunt end.
Okay.
And attempts to like thrust at the throat, but like stop when it gets too close.
Just touch the bearskin of the throat. Okay. So she's gonna roll dexterity against that, because she can't use her shield right now. You get advantage because her guard is broken, but she's going to try and evade that with dexterity.
Okay. And then this is just strength again, or is this something else?
For you, since it's the spear, would you normally attack with strength or dexterity with it?
Well, it's a melee, so it's strength.
Strength?
So.
Okay, yeah. So then strength, yes.
Again, not a 1.
Yeah, no problem. So, again, these rounds don't take the general 6 minutes or 6 seconds like they would normally. This is a bunch of footwork and kind of, moving around, and this is just you seeking your opportunity and taking it, right? So after perhaps 2 or 3 minutes of you, moving around, battering shields, throwing light blows, kind of jostling for position, you're able to knock the shield away, flip the spear over, and like put it like point first. Like maybe you're actually with your shield arm like holding her shield back, and have like the point at her throat. And she just smiles over that, and she says, she kind of like she holds her warhammer like backing up, and her shield backing up, and she says, "Yield, I yield. You are, as usual, the one with the deftest prowess."
And Marilla just simply smiles, and she says, "Perhaps, but it is still not enough."
Yeah, and that's probably the moment where there's you notice now, like you were so kind of in this dance, right, with Lieutenant Dashhound, there's a crowd that is gathered. Beyond the younglings, there's a few paladins, a few priests, and probably some servants as well who are like pretending to like hang up laundry, but actually just watching, right? And and yeah, and there's some cheering and loud ruckusing, and she, after you back away, she gives you a stiff salute and says, "It was an honor, Lady Fairheart. Perhaps we shall try again someday."
Someday.
Yeah, cool. And so there's that moment of cheering, and do you have any other task to accomplish here, or are you just going to kind of live in the moment of your victory for a minute or two?
I mean, obviously, it's round 2 for the younglings.
Yeah, the younglings are probably like all cheering, and then you're like, all right, you're up, and they like all just like stop cheering, and like their heads
It's the
fall.
slow clapping of like, oh.
Yeah, their heads fall. You hear some jeers from some of the other paladins, shouting for them to get in there quicker and to move it. And the younglings pick up their wooden swords or wooden warhammers, I should say, their clubs, and begin to attempt to batter you down again. None of them having near the prowess that Lieutenant Dashhound does.
Yep. So.
Cool. Awesome. Aelin.
Yep.
Okay, good. So, Aelin, you head off towards the, are you heading towards the, religious district, I assume? Perhaps we should actually see the city. Let's see the city. Okay, cool. So you are heading to the religious district again, to, I assume, give your goodbyes and your farewells to the people of the church.
Particularly Nelma, but yes.
Particularly, yeah, High Priestess Nelma. And as you arrive, you probably hear, like, maybe some shouts and some cheering coming from the Temple of Sigmar down the row, right? But you pay that no mind, because Sigmarites are a barbaric bunch. And you proceed into the small yet seemingly more populous Temple of Shalia. It's perhaps there's a bit of a, not a crowd, but a bit more milling about. There's probably when you enter, whereas before there were maybe 2 or 3 people and like 1 priestess working. There are a bunch of acolytes running around, like doing menial chores, right? Like maybe providing water to some sick or wounded, or other things that are going on. It seems like recruitment is on the uprise for the Temple of Shalia, which is great, and you have a direct contribution to that, obviously. And right, yeah, exactly. So as you enter, you can see that there are a few that recognize you somewhat immediately, and they all come up and greet you very respectfully. And eventually that commotion leads to High Priestess Nelma comes out of the rear of the chapel, and she comes up and she embraces you again. She says, Priestess Aelin, it is wonderful to see you.
Priestess, it's wonderful to see you too. It's also wonderful to see all this. And I just kind of gesture around the crowd for us anyway.
Yeah, right. And she says, well, if not for the grace of Shalia, she would not have pulled you out of those how would she say it? Those devious tunnels that lie beneath our city, and provide us with this wonderful bounty of assistance.
Yes, you are quite right. I wish I came bearing better news, but I did come to say that we will be departing soon, and I did not want to leave without saying thank you for all your generosity.
Yeah, and I think that there's a momentary, like, maybe flash of sadness at that news. She definitely was hoping that perhaps you would stay, and perhaps she could, you know, maybe even, like, we see it from her eyes, like, we see you with the High Priestess robe on, right, of Nuln at some point in your life. But as briefly as it started, it passes, and she says, I understand the group that you travel with, while they may be, well, less than devout at times, they need you in their midst far more than we do. As you can see, we are quite plentiful in Shalia's mercy here.
I think Aelin nods, and then she leans in closer, kind of conspiratorially, and kind of looks about to see if anyone can hear, and then just says, there's also other news that I think you should be informed of.
Yeah, and her brow furrows a bit at that, and she's like, we can speak privately in my sanctum if you would like.
Yes, I think that will be best.
Yeah, and she, like, you know, extends her arm, and you know the way, right? It's the one with the with the statue of Shalia. And when you walk in, perhaps, like, your eyes go to the birds, the doves that are on the arms of, you know, sitting in the wreaths that are around Shalia's arms. Maybe, like, you eye them a little more closely just to make sure they don't move.
All paranoid and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, she enters behind you and closes the door and says, Sister, tell me, what is this news so dire that we must speak in undertones?
Well, it is the reason why I'm leaving you. It appears that we've gotten word that armies are moving north to Middenheim. It seems there is an inevitable great battle that will occur.
Yeah, she kind of, like, her head kind of drops in thought, but also in a little bit of sadness, and she says, well, that is dire news indeed. Where hence this battle? Where will we fought? Do we know?
Middenheim, it appears, and Goddess knows, in battle there's no shortage of suffering.
She kind of, like, she looks confused, and she says, Does the Emperor mean to take Middenheim? Have the devout of Ulrich, have they strayed from the path?
It appears there's another, one they call Anders? I don't know much about him, but seems that it is not good.
Yeah, roll me an insight check.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. Her face blanches at the mention of that name. You can see there's a momentary, like, bit of panic, but then leading quickly into anger. You hear the High Priestess, Shaya, she says, that craven of a man, in anger, and, like, maybe it, like, shocks you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that shocks her.
Yeah, and very immediately she, like, kind of regains her composure, and says, my apologies, sister. There is a bit of... I request forgiveness from you and from Shalia.
It seems that you have a history. Please, if there's anything you could share.
She's like, let me tell you the tale that I know. I have never met the man, but you are aware that at one point he was a paladin of Bretonnia.
I've heard a few things. That is one of them.
Well, this one at least is true. One of the devout of the Lady of the Lake. Although I do not worship her myself, I know that she is powerful in the realm of gods and goddesses. One akin to nature, not unlike Tal. She bestows upon her devout interesting abilities, and one would say, and forgive me, and she kind of like looks up, right? Forgive me, Shalia, for speaking ill of the deities, but the Lady of the Lake has an interesting moral code that her and her devout follow. The resolution of conflicts is far more important than the methods for getting there. And I heard that this Anders, which we speak of, has, well, before his disappearance, of course, had taken that to heart. Beware, sister, if you go in askance of this man, he will still have perhaps his full armament of powers from the lady. And she is not one that I, nor any priest of Shalia, in fact, the Temple of Sigmar may balk at the full power of the lady behind them.
This is certainly something to be wary of. I will have to keep it in mind. Fortunately, it seems like we have no choice but to confront him.
She kind of like nods slowly and she says, "There is perhaps something that may help your journey. It is said that the lady bestows a weakness in those that follow her, so that she may always be in control, so they may not use her power unwisely and that it can be taken away. It is not dissimilar to what most of the gods and goddesses provide to their devout. Should we stray from the path, we will lose our divine gift. But with the lady, it goes a bit further. What I know of it is, it comes in one of two categories. Either it is their love of family, or it is their love of subordinates. Knowing what I know, at least in minimal terms, of Anders, there were some subordinates under his care at some time. In Bretonnia, their paladins and knights all receive squires. Perhaps, if anything were to be able to stop this madman, if finding these individuals, or this individual even, may be of great importance.
That does sound like a key piece of information. I am so glad that you chose to share this with me. Thank you, yet again.
I would say it is my pleasure, although the circumstances seem more dire than that, and had it my way, I would like to keep everybody here in the relative safety of Nuln.
Had it our way, there would be no battle to begin with. She just kind of looks at her.
Yeah, and she probably, lightens the mood a bit with the joke, right? Quote, unquote. Like, obviously, that's an unavoidable task.
That's the extent of Aylin's joking.
Right, yeah, exactly. And she probably nods, and she's like, yes. Would it be that were true, but take heed that if you find yourself in front of this man, be wary of his power, or even better, be wary of the power that his lady holds.
I shall. That is certain.
Okay. Yeah, and she probably, embraces you again, and that promptly signals the end of the conversation, I assume. And she kind of escorts you out, and
I think before she escorts me out, before she leaves, I walk up to, behind her, past her, towards the statue
Yeah.
that is in her room.
Mhm.
And I think out of the sleeve of my pocket, I just pull out a tiny little olive wreath, and I just place it on top of her head and just smile
Sure.
and bow and kind of just walk out.
Yeah, for a moment it seems like the statue smiles, but it must have been a trick of the light.
Of course.
Totally. And you exit, and the door closes, and we see the imagery of, you know, the wreath on top of Shalia's head. And then perhaps it changes to a scene of there's a woman who has vines running up her legs. She doesn't appear to be wearing any clothing. She's got long black hair that's perfectly straight and appears damp. Appears like she's, you know, been drenched in water recently. And across her lap lies a sword. It's actually a flambridge with the curved blade, you know, the wavy blade. And we see the woman pick up the sword and point it, and we just hear what sounds like the crashing of a wave on the shoreline of like a rocky cliff, and that's where we go to break. So everybody be back at 10 after the hour, and we will continue the adventures of this session, and we'll see if the party can get underway at some point.
Alrighty.
Right.
Yeah.
See y'all in a few minutes. All right, we're gonna take a quick little break, guys. I'm gonna put on this screen, and hope to see you in a few minutes.